I think we did a lot of things well. I think, kind of what I mentioned after the game and what stayed clean and showed after the game after watching the film was just how complimentary our team was. For us to be able to all be in phase, all three phases, and to play consistent football with no lacks or no downs, I think, that was huge for us and a big step for us.
Dayton Howard, obviously going to have to step up. What have you seen from him in practice? You obviously have that big touchdown, but what has he shown, just maybe last year and then during practice this year that he has the ability to do so?
Yeah, physically he's very gifted. He's tall, he's lanky, he's fast, and I think, it's just crazy because this time, last year he was on the scout team, and here he is, scoring touchdowns, which is pretty sweet. I think overall that entire room, the way that they've been practicing has been they've just been practicing so much better. And I think last week, looking back and reflecting on last week was, their best week of practice. And, for them to, practice that well and for it to show up on game day is huge.
A lot of you guys talked about, having maybe a really good progression week of practice last week. Has that continued this week, and what have you seen?
Yeah, it's early in the week, but I think, our speed has maintained the same. I think that was really the big key was whether it's skill position, O-line, tight ends, quarterbacks, everyone was moving with really good pace, and the practice was game-like, and I think that was so big for us. And I think, today we were able to continue that, and I think the more that we can make that just the normal is going to be huge for us.
Obviously, you got some history with this team last year, and then 3 years ago that crazy game in East Lansing. Does this game have any significance to you, knowing your history with this team?
Not really. At this point, I've played a lot of teams in the Big Ten, and now that I'm able to, this year I've been healthy, and for me to see these teams for whether it's a second or third time, that's the exciting part, and that's nice about the the familiarity with defenses. Honestly, really since the last time I played them, I wouldn't even really consider playing them when I got hurt last time I played them. But really just kind of with all the defenses that we face, the coordinators have changed, the players have changed since the last time I've played them. So it makes it exciting, preparing for them during the week. And, they're a really good team. They're a good defense. They've played some really good teams, obviously. So we have to play our best in order to win.
You guys, I think, only had a couple snaps of play action the other day, but you mentioned in post-game you think that could become something with how well Caleb's doing. Do you see that maybe being a next iteration in this offense?
I think there's a lot of different phases, and kind of depending on, defense scheme and, where we can take advantage of defenses will determine what, maybe new things come up. But I think overall, for us that play actually that we hit on with Dayton was actually a play that we've practiced for months now.
Really?
And we finally were able to run it, and for us to execute it that clean was a really good feeling. And honestly, there's a lot of plays like that whether it's repping against our defense or plays that we've been running for months now that we're continuing that really just kind of whenever the opportunity presents itself, depending on, maybe a way defense fitting or whatever another team is doing schematically, that's when we'll decide, probably to run those.
Is that part of the progression? Maybe in August 31st, you probably run a play in practice 4 or 5 times. Now you've run it a ton. Is that the familiarity that you hope you're developing with this offense?
Absolutely, and I think that's where that's kind of where everyone's at this point. I think, especially, there's a lot of us who weren't able to participate in spring ball, and a lot of us who have played a lot of football, we haven't played a lot in this system, obviously. So for us to gain these reps, and I think especially the first couple games of the season, there are times that we're running a play for the first time, against that particular look. We've run it, against, looks, and we try to do, there's only so much time in a practice, and there's only so much, that we can do, from a preparation standpoint until game day, anything can happen. So I think, that's where we're at in the year now, that we have some reps, we have some familiarity, underneath us, and I think, that experience is going to just help us continue to get better.
The offensive line is just obviously taken a huge step forward, especially in the run game. I guess, what have you seen there? Do you think it's just the experience kind of fully culminating, or what do you see?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple things. I think their experience, one, with the cohesion that they have in that room, and for them to be getting off the ball and But I think it's also kind of like with the rest of the offenses, how comfortable they're getting with the plays and the schemes. And now that they've run it, now we've ran it against multiple different fronts, different body types, different all kinds of different guys and teams. And I think they're starting to have a really good understanding of what it's supposed to look like. How can their blocks, how can they work together to do their job. And I think their understanding of that is grown tremendously.
Do you think pass pro is coming along? Are you comfortable with where it's at? Is it like where are you at with that?
Yeah, I've always been comfortable with the pass pro. Really just the more that I can get the ball out on time, then it makes the O-line's job easier.
Is that just like a communication thing, like you going through reads kind of thing, or how does that, maybe solidify a little bit better?
Yeah, I think kind of the big challenge, both for me as a quarterback on getting the ball out on time, is can I get the ball out to the third and fourth progression in the same timing that I would get the first read. And that's been something that I've been really, I think, growing at in these last couple weeks is I'm able to get to the third and fourth progression off what would be the timing of the first guy in the progression. And I think the more that I'm able to do that, and every single week, defenses are going to show different challenges and different confusing looks. And I think just the more that I can prepare myself for those looks, it'll really help the team. And I can that's just what I'm trying to do is how can I play quarterback in a way that gives us the best chance to win.
To the average person, that sounds difficult. Getting to your third, fourth progression as quickly as you would your first. Is that just like pre-snap reads, or?
It's a combination of both. So it's pre-snap, understanding what my possibilities are, and then also looking at body language, eyes, and then movement post-snap as well. And I think that's a part of playing quarterback, and I think that's a part of the challenge too of playing quarterback.
What's the DNA of this Michigan State team? New coach, you're probably finding new things out from last year's team. So what do you see on their defense?
Yeah, I think overall, they've played really good teams. I think that's kind of what the film shows, that they've played good teams. They have talent, and they have some speed as well. And I think, they have overall they can be very confusing. And I think, that's going to be a good challenge for us, is that they'll show a variety of looks. And, I think that's that's a part of the week for preparation in terms of, what we need to focus on. And I think, how can we best be prepared for some of those looks, and because they're a good defense, they have a lot of a variety, and just like any defense in the Big Ten, competing and preparing is a challenge during the week.
What's it been like in terms of having Brendan in for that goal line package, kind of from your perspective? And have you ever been in kind of a situation like this?
Well, I've been in this situation before where they would, Michigan would use JJ to run a little bit, and it kind of, we've had some success with that, and I think he was able to run for a first down when it was short yardage. So whatever keeps the ball moving.
Okay, this past game, offense, defense, special teams finally seemed like it all click. Is that kind of what you guys have been striving for? Is that four-quarter game where everything seems to finally come together?
Absolutely. I think, kind of like that little lack of consistency is, at times it can be frustrating that, when you're as a competitor and as a team, when we're not playing to our full potential, that can be frustrating and it can lead to losses. And I think for us to, put in the great week of practice that we did last week, and for us to, really just play a complete game on Saturday was just overall just a really big step for our team. And I think it just goes to show the effort that the guys are putting in during the week, that we're still striving to get better even through wins and losses, adversity, success. And I think and now we're going to a week where we won a game instead of lost a game. That shouldn't change at all. I think and I really think that the guys are approaching it that way.